My name is Dawkins Turnbull. I want to relate to you an experience that I can't come to release from the hollows of my mind, one that continues to plague my dreams and follow me during the daylight. It nags and pulls at me like a spoiled child, only to retreat to the recesses of the room when scolded. I don't know if it will drive me to meet my end at the length of a rope or the edge of a razor. But I will tell you this story so that you understand that I used to be a competent man, a man of strength and courage. I had decided to get a drink at the Four Corners pub on the way home. This was about 7 p.m. The drive from work to home is about half an hour or so depending on traffic, so I got to the bar about 7:10, give or take a few minutes. I suppose I was feeling a bit stressed at the job and needed to take the edge off. Also, my girlfriend of 4 years decided that she didn't want to be in a relationship with me anymore. To top that off, she was 3 months pregnant. Good God. Fatherhood was not something I was anticipating, but I would embrace it, I had told myself. I had a couple of beers and sat around a little later to watch the SportsCenter highlights. By the time I left, I couldn't believe how the time had pulled away from me. I was just not myself. My mind was gridlocked. It really doesn't matter what time to anyone, but I also think it is the reason why I'm even able to tell the story. So, as I recall, it was exactly 1:10 a.m. when I walked through my door. I remember this vividly because how dreadful the occurrence. Also, I was fond of looking at my Fitbit tracker as I walked in, just to check my steps. I even remembered that I had over 12,000 steps that day. I lived alone, but it was a duplex. My neighbor was a middle-aged Persian woman by the name of Necar Shahi. She was very beautiful, hauntingly beautiful actually. She had not said much to me other than the normal neighborly pleasantries like good morning or how are you today? No conversation whatsoever. Necar was already here when I moved in. My landlord, a sickly old non-vet named Anthony Shapiro, said that previous tenant had a stroke or a heart attack or some problem that struck him hard enough that his children had to place him in a home. If my suspicion is correct, then I'm almost certain as to why he left. He also told me that she always paid her rent 6 months in advance, and the only complaint anyone has ever made was about an odd smell coming from her garbage bin. Even that was cleared up within 1 day. She was a model tenant. As pretty as she was, her mannerisms were indeed odd. She was often gone while I was home, and since I worked during the day, she was practically invisible. On weeknights, I was usually in bed about 10 p.m. I don't hear a peep from her, not at all. When I do see her, she is dressed up and always in peep-toe stiletto heels. Always a different pair. Even one Saturday morning, as I was leaving for the gym, she was dressed to kill. She was wearing this tight leopard mini in black stilettos and a Gucci purse around her arm. She has this jet black mane that is always tied back in a ponytail. She drives a black Mercedes S-Class sedan, full leather interior, fully tinted. Once again, there was the occasional smell wafting from her side of the duplex, as noted by Mr. Shapiro. The other very eccentric thing was that she always wore sunglasses. It was a very off-putting and weird habit to have. I can remember one Sunday evening, it was raining very hard, so much so that I'd been drenched just walking in from my driveway. Right as I was walking up, she came out, black glasses perched on her nose. From my doorway, I saw her get in her car. Safely hidden behind my screen door, I watched as she procured a handkerchief from somewhere on her passenger side. She dabbed the sunglasses with the cloth quite thoroughly, and once satisfied, put it back where it was, and pulled out to go about her business of the day. A regular person would have just taken them off, of course, but maybe she was hiding something, like a domestic abuse situation. I could concede that, but I've never seen or heard a man at her place. Well, on that woeful night, I was feeling a bit groggy, sluggish from the drinks, but not falling over drunk. I'm a bit on the hefty side, so it takes a lot to get me on my ass. When I walked through the door, I could see directly through the glass doors to my patio. I like to have them open because it's adequately fenced in and it reminds me of my family home. There was a fire pit and a set of lounge chairs there as well. Just a serene feeling. Usually, it was very quiet because it was a gated community in a small rural area. Our duplex sits at the edge of a forested area, one of 3 total duplexes, all situated in a row on that side of the street. The backyards could basically run directly into it, if not for the large fences. At one point in time, they had been open, but the old Shapiro erected them due to various raccoon and possum complaints from previous tenants. On the other side of the street were some prefab homes. Also, I don't like to leave anything on like the TV or fans because I just can't stand to waste the energy. It was pitch black in the place, and per usual, I reached up to turn on the light. Just as I was about to hit the switch, I heard a faint, moist sound like the slurping of liquid. What it really reminded me of, and you can likely attest to it, is the sound that we hear in our own heads as we chew. The sound of saliva and the tongue clicking against the roof of the mouth. As I explained, it is deathly quiet in my home. I'm not sure what caused me to be so attentive that night, but I gave myself to it. Then I swear it was followed by a sucking sound, like someone was slurping up the last bit of soup and noodles. Instead of turning the light on, and because the sound seemed so close, I followed it. It definitely sounded like it was coming from outside. I thought maybe it would be a cat, or maybe the neighbor had wasted something and was cleaning it up. I'm not sure. It was just such a weird sound that I was taken aback. Then the sound came again, louder this time, and I knew right then, that it was coming from Necar's yard. I didn't bother taking off my shoes, but I hung my keys in the key holder, trying to make as little noise as possible. I thought about how I've never been home this late during the week. I'd like to get a full 8 hours and be on time to work with minutes to spare. Whatever was happening, I wanted to find out. Sleep be damned. As I approached the glass patio doors, I felt a distinct chill run across my body, and I shivered. There was no air circulating in the room, and it was quite warm outside. So I was wondering to myself, had that just been my fear or exhilaration? Either way, it made me feel a bit out of control, unsorted. I reached the doors, and instead of going outside straight away, I put my ear against the glass. I closed my eyes to concentrate on the sounds. What I heard then, I will tell you, made my blood run cold. I heard heavy breathing and ragged, wheezing gulps, followed by sucking and slurping. It was methodical, and I could count the seconds in between each. I could gauge the distance of the sound at about 50 or so feet away in Necar's yard. Curious, I needed to get a look at this for myself. I needed to see what was going on. The wooden fence that separated our yards was about 6 feet high and wooden, but I would be able to see through the gaps. As a matter of fact, there was a part near the middle that was a remnant of an old knothole, which was perfect for peeking. I figured I could open the sliding doors of the patio without making too much noise. I surely didn't want to scare it off. It had to be an animal of some sort. There were stories of wolves in the area, so it's not a stretch. Maybe it got a hold of a raccoon or something. I unlatched the door, making sure to subdue the click in the mechanism by opening it as slow as possible. Once it was done, I pushed the door open by stepping with one foot slightly inside the doorframe, positioning myself in front of its edge. The sliding was slight and muffled, and I pushed it open just enough so that I could squeeze through. I was lucky, though, because I had forgotten to slide the screen door back in place last night. If I had to slide that thing, the scratching sound that it made would have surely alerted whomever it was in the yard. Stepping outside, I did my best to tiptoe over to the fence. The few feet that I needed to traverse would be easy, but animals are much more alert than humans. You might be able to hear my feet in the grass as I walked, but I had to chance it. At this point, my curiosity was almost stifling. I kept myself low against the fence, shuffling slowly and awkwardly sideways. I was careful to peer through the vertical cracks as much as possible. And I did see something. It made me stop dead in my tracks. The horror of it still looms above me like a canopy, casting a shadow on my life. There was an old weeping willow out near the outer edge of the yard. Its drooping branches shone faintly in the moonlight. Under that tree, there was a figure in white, bent over, kneeling on the ground. At that point, it might have been about 200 feet away. I watched as its body hunched and lurched, slurping and sucking all the while. I made my way down to the knothole, shambling briskly, my heart hammering in my chest. Peering through that hole, I was able to get the full sight of it, and the chill bit into me like a cold iron trap. And I'm sure that it was eating. She was eating, that is. For when it finally raised its head to the sky, huffing and breathing loudly like it had just ran a marathon, I saw the jet black ponytail fall down his back, hanging in stark contrast to the white blouse it wore. I gasped, terror-stricken, as it was in the car I was seeing. It was the ponytail. I would know that hair anywhere, no matter how little she makes an appearance. I would not forget it. I would not mistake it. That very gasp is what did me in. The shock of it was too much. And when I did it, I clapped my hand to my mouth. Surely it was too late. Her head snapped toward me, and I swear she saw me right then. Sometimes the mind will play tricks, splitting your psyche amidst rational and irrational. My rational mind said you were given away. My irrational mind, the clown that it is, somehow believed that maybe she just heard something. Maybe it was too faint of a cry for her to think it was me. Foolishness. I knew she heard me. And she confirmed it when she turned towards me. Her head whipped around much too fast to be human. She straightened herself to full height and stood motionless for a moment. Her stance was awkward and crooked, similar to a large bird, an ostrich maybe. Under the tree, her face was hidden by the cast shadows, but I could still see the ruined white blouse and what appeared to be a black skirt. Down both of her arms was a slick sheen of blood, as if she'd been elbow deep inside that surely dead thing. There was a dark, wet mass on her shirt, and I didn't need to guess to know what it was. It glistened like oil under the pale light. Ever so slowly, she stepped out from the cover of the tree. I was finally able to see those eyes of hers, the eyes that she hid behind sunglasses at all times and all seasons. They focused in my direction, bearing down with the madness I haven't known. I gasped, then clasped my hand to my mouth, falling back against the ground at the realization the pieces of the Necar conundrum had finally clicked into place. I could still see her through the hole, framed by the glow of the moonlight. I wanted to run away. I thought that I could, but something held me fast in place, weighing me down. The eyes glowed with an ethereal light, flashing within, granting me an image of marble glass being slowly turned against a backdrop of flames. Inside them, something was alive. For a moment, the glare was so intense that all I could see were the eyes, and then she stepped toward me. I shit you not. You probably would never believe this, and I don't expect that anyone seriously considered this truth, but I lived it. I saw it. You see, I saw her move quick as a cat, rushing toward the fence. I couldn't turn fast enough before she was upon it. She slammed into the fence in a hard charge like that of a linebacker. It rattled like a car had struck it, almost folding in from the force. I was knocked back on my ass just in time to see that wicked eye scan me through the knothole in the fence. It's something no one could forget. I also noticed that, for the love of God, may you strike me down, that she had no nose. There was just a gaping black hole where her nose used to be. The face of Necar stared back at me, now a shadow of her previous self, a horrific montage of rage and bloodlust. She howled again, and it was a guttural, gurgling wail that made me wince, as if I had been slapped across the face. I'm not ashamed to say that I yelled. It was this low, thin moan that grew into a wail, and I couldn't believe it issued from my throat. I scrambled away from her and to my feet. I didn't turn to look, but I heard her banging against the fence, grunting and hissing with each strike. Once I was through the patio doors, I shut it and locked it so fast that I pinched the edge of my pinky finger. Outside, the banging had finally stopped. It had become really quiet. So quiet, in fact, that it nearly seemed as if I dreamed it all. The fence was still intact. Actually, it wasn't even crooked from those forceful blows she gave it. I walked down to the left side of the room to see if I could get a better view of her yard, or if I could notice any movement there. I thought maybe I saw something move closer to her house, but it could have just been a trick of the moonlight. I thought to myself that maybe, just maybe, I had hallucinated the whole event. I was a bit over my limit and likely drunk. With no evidence of anything there, at least from this vantage, it seemed the surest thing. I thought stupidly that I should call the police. But what would I say? Oh, my neighbor is a monster that just killed something and ate it in her backyard. Come investigate. Still, it was much too real to be a nightmare. Too real. My eyes fell upon a small object lying on the ground and near the fence. Right near that damn hole. I patted my back pocket just to make sure, and I felt my stomach drop at the realization my wallet was out there. Not sure if I should even try to grab the wallet. I stood looking at it like an idiot. I just glared at it from behind the glass, dumbfounded, wishing that I had just brought my ass home after work. I had just been assuming that it was a dream, but right here is the only evidence that would solidify the occurrence as a true horror. If it wasn't real, then my wallet would still be in my pocket. Okay, well, it's possible that I could have just dropped it in my stupor, but this situation made me feel like a teetotaler. I ceased to be drunk the very moment those red eyes peeked through the shadows of the tree. I was now the most sober man in America. The fence rattled again, and I reflexively jumped away from the glass doors. It rattled once again, but then I saw a pale hand grip the top of the fence, followed by another. They stayed there for about 5 seconds before I heard a sickening creak of wood, followed by scraping. Then I saw Necar, or what looked like her, flip up and over the fence with the grace of an Olympic gymnast. It was actually one of the most graceful things I've ever seen in person, the horror notwithstanding. She landed on her haunches, looking ever feline in her movement. Immediately, as if she was of a calculating mind, she grabbed my wallet from the ground. I was horrified, and before I knew what was happening, I was screaming at the top of my lungs, beating at the glass with my fists. Hey friends, thanks for watching. If you like what you heard, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram at the Black